Welcome to the Worldwise Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to building a truly borderless life. From entrepreneurship, investment migration, tax optimization, and everything in between, this show highlights the nuances of a global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. Many of our Canadian and American clients have been very interested in this one particular Latin American country as of recent, and they are looking for not only a back pocket residency, but also for full relocation and starting over their life. And that is in the Switzerland, as it is called, of Latin America, which is Uruguay. Uruguay, as of the past few months, is where we have been getting the most inquiries from those who are looking not just for the back pocket residency, but for a full-time relocation, and for many good reasons. So we have another video specific to obtaining the residency in Uruguay and what that looks like, which I will link below. But today I'm going to dive into not the residency process per se, but we're going to specifically be talking about the tax residency in Uruguay and what that looks like. Now, if you are Canadian or American and you're looking to relocate to Uruguay, especially if you're Canadian, you're going to want to cease to become not only a Canadian resident, but also a Canadian tax resident, which we do have a team in Canada specific to emigration and leaving Canada and how you can become a non-tax resident officially in the eyes of the CRA. Now, of course, with the US, this is slightly more difficult, and you will not get out of the tax system simply by leaving, but there is some tax planning that can be done not in Uruguay, but in other jurisdictions in Latin America. We work with all of our clients with either Canadian or American based clients, depending on their needs. If they're looking to get out of the Canadian tax system, we have a team for that. Or if they're looking to tax plan in the US, we also have a team for that and specific strategies for Americans. However, perhaps you are simply looking to live a quieter lifestyle in Uruguay. You have the residency, but you are now needing the tax residency. These are two completely different processes, processed by completely different teams on the ground. And our accounting team in Uruguay assists with the tax residency process. Now, of course, you do need your residency in Uruguay. This is going to make the process much smoother, but there are a few different ways that you can qualify to become a tax resident in Uruguay. So the first way is through physical presence. This is the standard option. If you are truly living in Uruguay, you're going to need to be 183 days or more in Uruguay. Temporary absences are counted for this. And with this, you will become a tax resident. So if you are looking to live full-time in Uruguay, this is likely going to be the best option for you. However, please note that simply by staying 183, 185 days, you do still need a tax residency certificate, and that does need to be processed by an accounting team. Our accounting team are experts in this, help many of our clients once they are physically present for 6 months plus on the ground in Uruguay. Now, the other option is establishment of certain interests. So the first is basis of activity, meaning that your income in Uruguay must be the highest. You must not have income that is higher than the income that is coming into Uruguay in any other jurisdiction. With that, Uruguay will become your country of tax residency. There is also an option for economic interest, which we're going to talk about after this, or vital interest, which means that your spouse, your children, your immediate family are in Uruguay, and this needs to be verifiable, of course, with documentation. So these are the options on how you can become a tax resident in Uruguay, but let's go back to that economic interest and talk about what this looks like, because there are certain qualifications that need to be met in terms of investing in Uruguay, and there are various different options here for you to become a tax resident. So first and foremost, we should establish that Uruguay uses indexed units, IU. And this varies. It is not tied to the US dollar. This varies depending on the year, but we're going to talk about these index units and what it would be specifically to US dollars. Again, these prices change slightly since index units are not tied to inflation, which is why Uruguay uses the indexed units. But if you are looking to have more than 15 million index units, which is around 2.1, 2.2 million USD in properties in Uruguay, then you are going to be considered a tax resident. So of course, this is more of a strategic strategy. If you are looking to invest a few million in Uruguay, then this is how you can obtain tax residency, which of course is beneficial because you either get a 0% 11-year tax holiday or a 7% lifetime tax. But of course, you have to be an Uruguay resident. With your residency certificate, you can apply for one or the other in terms of options. So next up, and yes, we are starting with the larger amounts. After this next one, we are going to go into some smaller amounts to obtain tax residency in Uruguay. You can have more than 45 million index units, which is about 7.5 million USD in a company with projects or activities that are promoted by the investment unit in Uruguay. So you're looking at 7.5 million to around 2.5 million USD. There are some other options where most of our clients will opt for this next option in order to obtain the tax residency in Uruguay. So next up, and this is a popular one, you have to have more than 3.5 million indexed units, which is around 530,000 US dollars, so just over $500,000 in real estate property. And with this, you will obtain tax residency through only being present in Uruguay for at least 60 days of each calendar year. So you do not have to be present for the 183 days or 6 months per year in order to obtain tax residency. If you have a property of just above $500,000 US dollars, you have invested in this property. $500,000 US dollars is quite a bit, but it is not going to be the top tier price point that you're going to see in Uruguay. So if you are looking for a property, especially somewhere along the coastal areas in Uruguay, this can probably be what you can expect to pay for a decent but more luxurious property. Now, it's also important to note that once you have tax residency in Uruguay, there are accounting fees that go along with this, and you do have to renew this annually. Our accounting team assists with both of these to keep you compliant for tax residency in the country, but there is some more upkeep than simply living in the country or investing in a property worth $500,000 USD plus and simply holding your tax residency that way. There is some behind the scenes that needs to go on in order to first acquire this and then to keep your tax residency active. Now, if you are looking to invest in or bring your company over to Uruguay, there is an option to obtain tax residency through this as well. It's going to be 15 million index units, which is just over 2 million USD in a company. And this needs to create at least 15 new full-time jobs in Uruguay. So this is an option, quite honestly, that most of our clients are not looking to do. They have businesses set up in Panama, in Indonesia, in various other jurisdictions in Latin America or Asia. They're typically not looking to bring a company over to Uruguay, but this is an option. I will say with most of our clients, the real estate option of $500,000 USD, just over the $500,000 USD, is the most popular in order to obtain and keep tax residency and only physically be in Uruguay 2 months out of the year. Of course, there are other considerations. You have to make sure that you're not triggering tax residency elsewhere across the globe. So there is some planning that goes into this. Or if you are looking to relocate your family full time, then the simple physical presence on the ground is another option. Again, you do still have to obtain the tax residency through our accounting team and to renew it and have monthly filings, but that is an option simply by staying on the ground. A few other things that I will note that we see from assisting clients in the process is that Uruguay does have one of the higher VATs in Latin America. So it is 22% VAT, and that is on essentially every service. So any service that you are looking to get in Uruguay, most likely you can tack an extra 22% for VAT, which is their value added tax, onto these services. So it is not going to be the lowest cost place in Latin America, but if you are looking for relocation in a safe and liberal country, then this may be the option for you. Or, of course, if you're looking for some tax benefits. Another note that we see with a lot of our clients is that banks in Uruguay are thorough. Again, not a bad thing, but it is something important to note. So most banks will ask, very typical for banks to ask for quite a bit of AML, anti-money laundering documentation in order to prove where the money is coming from, especially if you are investing in real estate in Uruguay. Of course, Uruguay is a civil law system, so notaries are very much so used as with most of Latin America, but this is a problem that can be solved between the notaries, our team, and the bank. But it is important to note that they will want to see where the funds are coming from when you're bringing them into Uruguay prior to purchasing the property. And we do sometimes see additional questions being asked from this, or an in-person interview at the bank or with the notary being required. So it's important to note that this is a civil law system. A lot of the process will happen physically in person on the ground. So it's going to be best if you can be present on the ground for at least a portion, at least the beginning portion of this property purchase. Our video specific to obtaining residency, not tax residency in Uruguay, is linked below if you're interested in what that looks like. We also have our Uruguay Residency Essentials course, which really walks you through everything you need to know for what you will need, documents, and what life is like on the ground and living and banking in Uruguay. We have that low-cost course linked below. But if you are interested in relocating, whether it be yourself or your business, you can book a call with our team below, and we are happy to help you further in you or your company's relocation. You've just listened to the Worldwise Wealth podcast. Visit our links in the show notes below or at worldwisecapital.com to learn more about how we can assist in your borderless diversification journey. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.